Clipper fam? It's your boy, Coach D, and we are back again as promised. I said I would be starting a new series, doing a film study of the Clippers. You know, this Clippers team, I'll call this season before the season the last dance. If 30-year-old plus, Kawhi Leonard, 30-year-old plus James Harden, if these guys are going to lead the Clippers to their first championship, it's going to happen. It's going to need to happen sooner rather than later. And this team that we have now, top to bottom, is probably the most talented Clippers team that we've ever had. However, we're just super duper old. And so with that being said, we're going to need a lot of effort and a lot of coaching. We have to be smart and execute in the things that we do, be wise, right? You don't have the youth and the athleticism of young dudes, but you have the experience and the wisdom. So you have to play smart, you have to be efficient, and you have to give good effort as well. If you can do those things, and the coaching can help you do those things, then you will likely have success. But if not, then you're not. And what we've seen with the Clippers these past, 4 games, we have 2 games on the road where the effort wasn't there, where the coaching really wasn't there, right? The wisdom. And then you had 2 games where at home where the effort was there. So with that being the case, we're going to go ahead and dive into the film and see what went wrong during this Warriors game, because we finished the second quarter, and big thanks to James Harden going crazy and dropping 20 points in the first half. We ended halftime up 49-46. Then we're going to come to the end of the third quarter, and we're down almost 20 points. So let's see what happened, what went wrong for the Clippers, and let's go ahead and dive in. Make sure you like and subscribe. All right, so first possession off rip, we're going to get a Kawhi ISO on Jimmy. And Kawhi, still at his age, 35, man, still one of the best midi bucket getters, in the league. Great shot. All right, then we're going to get Kawhi Zoo pick and roll coming here. And it's Kawhi curling around. Kawhi is going to end up missing the lay, but Zoo was there for the cleanup, which was really good. All right, pretty sure we have a side out of bounds here after a foul. One thing that we got to do a much better job of, we're going to go Zoo screen and roll here with Harden. We got to do a better job of recognizing, the spacing. Steph is basically not guarding DJ in the corner, right? Harden should recognize we have 3 people here and try to get that ball to DJ or throw it up to Zoo or something. But he ends up settling for, a heavily contested step back midi, and he ends up missing it. All right, then we're going to go Zoo Harden pick and roll, my favorite. Zoo's going to roll, dangerous pass. He gets it, though. Posts up Quentin Post and lets him know, who's here. All right, we're going to end up going Kawhi ISO again. Out here showing Jimmy Butler who's boss with this midi. Now, I don't know what 10-7 is or what Ty Lue just called right there, but we have, I think he told him 7 seconds maybe, but we need to get the ball across the court. When I saw James doing this, I said, this is going to be a turnover. You have 7 seconds to get the ball across the court. I don't know if James thought he was De'Aaron Fox or who he thought he was, but then Zoo's going to get called up for the screen, which is going to do nothing but trap James back here. And then James just throws up some nonsense, and it ends up being a shot clock violation. Like, you only had 7 seconds not to get the ball across the court, 7 seconds to shoot a quality shot. Like, we needed to just go, and I don't know what that was. That was very disappointing. Ty Lue's pretty disappointed. But at the same time, you got to tell them, hey, we got to go. When you seen James dribbling slow, like, you got to tell him, you got to yell, like, go, man. Okay, here we go. I don't love this play at all. Because Zoo is not really a lob threat per se, Harden is definitely going to need to bring him up here and pick and roll. Instead, he just decides to try to beat Steph off the dribble, which is fine. But Draymond, who was guarding Zoo, stepped up to help really, really quick. Jimmy's doing great weak side help. Harden's going to have to get this up right now. He probably takes 1 too many steps, and Draymond gets the block, and they're up the other way. All right, Warriors just took the lead, and we're going to go Zoo Harden pick and roll, which I love. Now, Zoo sees Kawhi Leonard wide open. I don't know why he decided to take a few more dribbles, but he did that. Jimmy came over, right, to stop him free rolling, and then he just does this. That is so bad. Just a terrible decision. All right, then Kawhi's going to try to ISO Draymond here. You know, you got to give Draymond credit, man. He's still one of the best defenders in the NBA. Got Kawhi Leonard in the ISO, and that's just great defense. And Kawhi's going to miss there. Zoo can't come down with the board. All right, Harden's going to beat Kuminga here off the dribble. Quentin Post is helping. He finds Zoo. Zoo's going to find DJ in the corner, who was hot as lava the last game, but this game, not so much. All right, we're going to go Kawhi Zoo pick and roll here. I don't love it. Right here, when Draymond leaves Zoo to go for this steal, you know, one of the limitations of Kawhi Leonard, he's not the best passer in the world in the sense, or playmaker in the world in the sense that if this is James Harden, this is a lob to Zoo and a dunk. Easy. But instead, Kawhi doesn't see it. Dre kind of gets back, and then we get a forced up little shot here over Kuminga, and that's a miss. All right, we're going to get a Kawhi ISO here. We get the switch on the Quentin Post. And Kawhi's going to, you know, get to his spot, but that's, you know, it's a tough shot. Kawhi is a tough shot maker, but, you know, when he's tired or when he's off, he's off. You know, but when he's on, it's deadly. You know, he makes that shot, but he missed. All right, here we're going to get a dribble handoff here in pick and roll with Harden and Zoo. Really good. Harden's going to miss that floater, but Zoo did a really good job getting position under the basket for the rebound and the putback. Now, this is going to be a testament to Stephen Curry, who early in his career was not a good defender, but he has really, just because he's so great and such a competitor, has really put in the time and the work to become a decent to good on-ball defender. This is James Harden here, who we seen last year put a lot of dudes on the highlight tape. And you have Stephen Curry, the best shooter of all time, sitting in a chair, not phased, and gets the cookies. We're going to have Zoo, Kawhi pick and roll here. And notice we had Chris Dunn and Chris Paul sub into the game. Zoo, Kawhi pick and roll. Kawhi does a great job this time seeing Zoo rolling, and Zoo does a great job getting in position, and the Warriors don't do as good of a job with weak side help, and that was just easy and beautiful. Now, one thing that I've been calling for is for Chris Paul to have his minutes with Ivica Zubac, and the reason that is because of this play. There is going to be a very big difference of how Chris Paul can play with Ivica Zubac to how Chris Paul can play with Brook Lopez. Zubac is a pick and roll guy. So is Chris Paul. They complement each other very well, as we're going to see on this play. Brook Lopez does not, but we'll wait for that. Notice Zubac is going to set the screen here on Chris, and look at that pass. Look at this roll. The only thing wrong with this is that DJJ is not in the corner. Why is he standing right there? We have no idea. He was running from the other side. Maybe you tell CP3 you need to wait till DJ's in the corner to run the pick and roll. But this would have been a wide open three for DJJ if he wasn't right there, but instead it leads to a turnover. Now, when Harden left the game, it was a 4-point deficit. It was 59-63. In the 3 minutes that he's been off, the lead has now grown to 7. Now, this is where, because Kawhi was out there, now this is where Ty Lue is going to make his most egregious mistake. And he did the exact same thing in the Utah game. Let me know if y'all want me to pull up that footage. It was even worse than this. When you take James Harden and Kawhi Leonard off of this Clippers team and put lineups in the game without them, it is some of the nastiest basketball I have ever seen. The key and fundamental issue with these lineups is that there is no creator on the floor. Chris Paul at 40 years old cannot be your offensive engine. Now, I do think he will do a lot better staggering with Ivica Zubac than he does with Brook Lopez, as like I said, we'll get into when Brook checks in here soon. But still in all, I mean, this is just an all-role player lineup, and there's just nobody to create for anybody else. So you got Zoo in the ISO here. He gets doubled. The ball's going to come back to him on the ISO. He's almost going to fall down. He gets it to DJ, but DJ is going to brick. Now, remember when Zoo and Chris Paul ran pick and roll earlier in the third quarter and how much space it generated and how much, open space and shot it created for everybody? Look at how much space it creates with Brook Lopez. None at all. He's just not a roller. That's just not how this goes. So after that fails, we're then going to run a dribble handoff for Chris Dunn. And Chris Dunn's going to try to go ISO with Brandon Posminski, and Chris Dunn is going to turn over the ball. If you are putting out lineups that are running plays for Chris Dunn to go ISO on dribble handoffs, you have no idea what you're doing. All right, here we're going to have Chris Paul, Brook Lopez pick and roll again. Again, nothing's going to come of it because what is Chris Paul? They just switched, and what is Chris Paul supposed to do down there? Nothing. He has to be able to get to that midi and pick and roll, or there's no point in even running it. And if Brook isn't going to roll, then like I said, it's not working. Anyway, that's going to lead to Chris Paul kicking it back out. And we're going to have to salute Brook here because this was tough. He's going to ISO Buddy Hield here and take him to work. This was so tough. I don't know if that's a travel, but we'll take it. All right, again, we're going to go here. We're doing high pick and roll with Chris Paul and Brook Lopez. Again, not going to work. Chris, who is this? Al Horford here, I believe, is playing drop coverage this time instead of switching. And guess what? The Warriors will take this shot 10 out of 10 times. You got 40-year-old Chris Paul shooting the ball 30 feet away from the basket, or he got a little closer, but they'll live with that shot. That's not a good shot. Chris can't make that at his age. That's not what you want. That ain't it. And like I said, this is a situation where Chris lives and dies in that midi, especially at his age. He cannot be forced to take, walk-in threes or bringing Al Horford to the rim. No, he has to be able to get in the mid-range, and a big part of that is Lopez rolling, but he does not roll because that's not what he does. So Chris has to play his minutes with Ivica Zubac. Now we're going to go Chris Dunn pick and roll. Moses Moody is going to chase over top, and Chris Dunn is going to try this midi, and he's going to miss, of course. If you are having your lineup run offense through Chris Dunn, you have serious problems on your hand. That lineup is going to have serious problems on their hand. And this is where the issue with me starts with Ty Lue, because what would ever make you think that Chris Dunn being the second option on this offense or the second ball handler creator on this offense next to Chris Paul was ever going to produce any type of points? I just don't understand the logic in that, and it does not work at all. Chris Dunn, when he tries to create, this is like a turnover and a brick in a row. It just looks awful with these guys. And again, it can just never, ever happen. I don't care if Kawhi and James only play a minute or 2 or 3 minutes with each other in a quarter. This unit here cannot be left alone. It cannot have Chris Paul and Chris Dunn as the creators, or this is just crazy. So now this Grant Paul unit, this B team, Clippers B team, this unit has tried everything in the book to try to score a basket and have failed at everything. So now we're going to try John Collins ISO. Going to swing the rock. Chris is going to let John get in position. He's going to throw it to John. They're going to double. Al Horford's going to double because he has the mismatch on Posminski. John almost throws the ball out of bounds. Chris Dunn catches the ball like a wide receiver, and he just about to fall out of bounds, throws it to Brook. Brook almost loses the ball and then does this. This unit looks like a junior high team that has never, on offense, looks like a junior high team that has never, ran organizational basketball ever. This looks that bad. This looks like Shaqtin' a Fool. It looks like nobody knows what to do. Turnovers galore, bad shots galore. And it just has got to stop. This unit took, like we said, when Harden left the game, it was 59-63. When Kawhi left the game, it was 61-68. It ballooned up to 63-78. We went from 7 points down with Kawhi to 15 points down on the road to the Warriors in the third quarter. And that type of stuff right there, that's a loss, So we just can't do, and like I said, we can't put everything on Ty Lue, but that right there, putting that lineup out there so that you can go from being 7 down to 15 down, which was the only thing that was ever going to happen. It was the same thing that happened to Utah. That lineup looks horrible. It's always looked horrible, and it's going to continue to look horrible anytime it gets put out. It just cannot be an option. And going down 15 points to the Warriors going into the fourth quarter is asking for a loss. Steph Curry is sitting on the bench, and you're down 15. Come on, man.